Welcome, everyone. We are live. My name is Niki Lopez of Niki Lopez Creative, and you're watching The Circle, where every Tuesday, 8:30 to 9 p.m., I'm sharing stories of the creative community, activists, social entrepreneur, people doing great things in the world today. And today I have back on a very special guest and friend, Jose Silva. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. And Jose is a multimedia artist. I know there's a lot of wonderful things that you do. So let's dive in. Like, what was your start to the creative world?
I've been doing art since I was a little kid. My mom had me in all kinds of like classes and art, art classes and everything. But then I went to school for video, motion graphics, and video editing and things like that. But then I think it was 2014 that I got into the watercolors.
Mm.
And then I was doing that for a few years. And sometime last year, towards the end of last year, I kind of decided that I wanted to experiment with other things. And so that's when I started getting into the mask and multimedia art creations and stuff.
And yes, so I noticed you said multimedia, and everyone has their own definition. What is multimedia for you?
I mean, for me, it's just like the not being restricted to one specific thing. So like you can do painting and sculpture and fashion and just juggle different things, and I feel like that's what makes it multimedia and video too.
And let me just take a few minutes because we have a few people live already. We have Valerie
Awesome.
saying hello,
Hi.
Dee saying good evening, and
Nice.
Rita, Soul Queen, saying hello, King and Queen.
Yes. They done.
So let's jump in a little bit to your watercolor, because you have what are some of the themes that's in your watercolor? I don't know if you have any one of them. I think there's one in the background a little bit, but
Yeah, that's one in the background.
you have, I love that you have a lot of different narratives of your work, and even though these nice, airy colors, they have some really deep layers and meaning to it. So can you walk us through a little bit about your watercolor process and the concepts behind them?
Yeah, of course. So I started off doing a lot of birds. Like when I first started experimenting with watercolors, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, what I wanted to say. So, but I always loved birds, like Florida birds, egrets, flamingos, and so I started painting that just to start off, playing with the watercolors. And then I started doing portraits, and then I started doing mixtures of portraits and birds. And later on, I was doing a lot of fan art too. I was doing fan art for Game of Thrones and The Walking Dead and musicians that I liked. And then after that, it kind of became like a thing that I wanted to say something. Sometime, in the last couple of years, I think probably your show was one of the things that inspired me to your elephant show to like start doing something that had like a meaning, that it had like a message and something I wanted to say. And so I remember the one I did was the mask of social media that I put up in your show, and it was about how we manipulate the way we are perceived on social media. And so then I ended up doing a whole little collection after that of a set of 3 watercolors.
Awesome. And where do you primarily like show your work?
I used to have a studio space, but I gave it up last year because I feel like half the times I got inspired at home and I didn't want to travel, and I would just end up doing most of my art at home. And so I gave that up, but I was doing the Wilton Manors Art Walk every month. So that was like a place where you could find me once a month. And then I was trying to be in different shows, different festivals, things like that.
Awesome. And I'm just so excited about your mask. Can you tell us a little bit about what led you to start building your mask?
Sure. So that watercolor collection that I did, that was like a self-portrait series. Like I said, it was about how you manipulate the way you're perceived in social media. So it kind of led me to masks because, we wear masks on social media or in person and things like that. And I was like, man, I love the concept. And I was like, I was actually trying to get into some sculpture because I wanted a break from watercolor. So I was like, let me get some clay and play around and see what I come up with. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do some masks. And I started thinking about what I wanted to do. And at the time, I was doing a lot of art shows, and I kept finding that even as an artist, I was wearing a mask in the way
Mhm.
that I presented my art to other people, because the way that, when you present your art, you want to present it very like you're proud of it and you're confident in it. But a lot of times you're really kind of like afraid and insecure about, what people are going to think and everything like that. And so even as an artist, I find when I was doing shows and things like that, that I was having to put on a mask of like confidence and like, so that I could talk about my art, normal, without
Mhm.
coming up as insecure. And so that's when I came up with a set of clay masks, and I call them the masks of fortitude. And each one addressed a different part that I represented myself as an artist that may
Mhm.
have been overcompensated for something else. And so that was like, that's kind of how I got into masks originally.
Awesome. And I know you have some behind you. Can we like go through some of them and
Yeah, sure. So I don't really know how I got into the idea of like using different materials,
Mhm.
recycling materials that were used before. I had a friend who was trying to get rid of some things in his shed, and I was like, "Hey, these are kind of cool materials. Like, can I keep them?" And then I was like, "Oh, it'd be cool if I make masks." And so a lot of the materials I use, I don't even know what they were originally intended for.
Mhm.
But yeah, I have a few that I can show you. Some of
Okay.
these I've already shown online. Um, so this one's made of Ethernet cables,
Mm,
and they're all wearable too.
that's awesome.
And
So,
I just like the idea of like, I don't know. I think after working on paper for so long, and doing this type of brush work, and I was just doing paper and brush and paper and brush. I think I got to a point that I just wanted to do something completely different with my hands,
mhm.
and doing the different materials was so fun, because it's like you have to figure out how to work with them, how to like cut them without them shattering, or how to glue them together in a way that they will
Mhm.
stay permanently together, or you know how to work with different materials, and like every mask was like a challenge in that way. It was a new material that I was learning,
Mhm.
so it was fun.
I really, I'm really, I connect to what you say about the mask. I do several masks, and that concept of how many, all the layers that we do. And sometimes when I do paint my face, there is a sense of security with that. It's just like I don't feel like sometimes I could be socially awkward, or
Yeah.
or just feel like I'm exposed, but somehow I throw some paint on my face, then all of a sudden I feel like there's a protection between me and the
There
outside
is.
world.
Yeah, it's a completely different feeling. Like I wore one of these. I wore this one to an art show before too,
Oh
and it
my
was
God.
such a different experience. The way that people look at you
Yeah,
when you're wearing something like this on your face is very different than when you're not.
yeah.
And so yeah, it's definitely a different experience.
And do you feel like when I paint my face and things like that, in some ways I feel like that's kind of a silent performance art as well, you know?
It is. It is. That's one of the things I realized going into working on these masks. That I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like I'm kind of getting into a little bit of fashion,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a little bit of a performance art. Like I have some like this one kind of has a lot of movement. I don't know
Mm.
if you can see the it has all these like little endings to it. So it makes sounds, and they kind of get into a little bit of like performance art. When you wear them out.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, these are so fun to make. Like I usually would uh, just find materials. I'll start with one. I'm like, okay, this is gonna be the main base of what I'm gonna do, and then I'm gonna build around it. And
Mm-hmm.
usually I just try things out, and whichever thing like I find either it makes me laugh or it scares me, I'm like, yeah, that's the way to go.
We have Grecia saying greetings and fantastic guests.
Oh, thank
Absolutely,
you.
absolutely. So, do you have some more back there, or
Yes, I do.
yeah?
A few more, yeah. This is one of the new ones that I haven't shown this one yet
Oh wow.
on the intranet. It's made out of computer parts.
Wow, that's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
And so, do you like name the mask or like?
I don't. At the beginning, I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
name each one, but then I was afraid that it would kind of like put it in a box.
Mm,
Because people see so many different things. Either they'll see like a message or a cultural, you know,
mm-hmm.
leaning towards a culture or leaning towards this or that. And I kind of like love when people come up with something entirely different than what I was thinking. So, and half of these materials, I mean, these some of them I do know what they are, but some of them I don't. So I'm like, I think I'm
Mm.
just gonna leave them without names, and
Okay. And
yeah.
with the mask, do you work totally from the materials, or do you sketch it out first,
I
or?
sketch it out first,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, it's a combination of both because I start off with a material
Mm-hmm.
that I'll put somewhere in my face, and then I'll try to work out a shape, and I will sketch it out with colors and everything, and but it actually never ends up looking exactly the same as the sketch. But the
Yeah.
sketch is always part of the process. It
Okay.
kind of helps me. It kind of gives me a little bit of direction because otherwise I might sit there and be like, I don't know what I'm gonna do for like a while. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I have a sketch, I feel like at least I know what I'm trying to do. And
Mm-hmm.
even if it doesn't end up looking that way, at least I had a vision in my mind.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
even with watercolors, I always like would do a sketch beforehand so that I know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm doing.
Awesome. And then with the masks, are they for sale? Do you do commissions, like, or are you just showcasing them for now?
Yeah, I have done commissions for the masks, and those are awesome because people tend to give me a lot of freedom to do whatever I want.
Mm-hmm.
But this one specifically, I feel like they took me so long to make because I was figuring out all the materials and things like that that it's hard for me to put a price on it.
Mm-hmm.
I find it really hard, and I'm kind of really attached to them too.
Mm-hmm.
And so at the time, I'm not selling them. Also because I kind of want to show them off before. Like I'd love to do like a show. That was
Mm-hmm.
kind of one of my intentions this year was to have like some kind of art exhibit where I would show them off and maybe have like models wearing them,
Mm-hmm.
so that everyone would get to see them before I sold them and let them go.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one of the other things that I'm currently working on is doing virtual art shows
Mm, yeah.
because I thought, I don't have a place to showcase this now, but everything, online is a place to do everything now.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I've been doing motion graphics, so I have all the tools to make a virtual room where I can have my art up and kind of talk through it. So my plan is to show these on a virtual art show if I don't get to show them in person.
Awesome. And speaking of virtual art show, we're going to have a very unique "What's Your Elephant" exhibition this year, and thankfully, you're one of the artists that's in the show. Um, and I do have your piece. I could pull it up if we could talk about it a little bit.
Oh, sure, of
Yeah.
course.
So, just for those who may not know, I do an annual "What's Your Elephant" art show, and so sometimes when I'm doing it, the themes are really broad, and sometimes they're specific. So, this year's art show is going to focus on some of the people that are at risk during this shelter at home. Home is not a safe place. You have, domestic violence being, is going up, all of these things, feelings of loneliness. So the work in the show is addressing those things. So we're going to have a small workshop on Friday, but then next month we're going to do a virtual chat with all of the artists to talk about the work and talk about some of these topics and issues. And so let me see if I could pull this up. Um, yeah, can we see that there to the side? So yeah, so this is the piece that you're putting in the "What's Your Elephant" art exhibition. Can you tell us a little bit about the piece and the story behind it?
Sure. So this is again in the same concept of like the masks that we wear, and I think my elephant on this one has to do with emotions. I
Mm,
think that that's the main thing that we're trying to hide is how we really feel on the inside. So the silhouette in the center, he's kind of like represents your emotional self,
mm-hmm,
and then the blue one, it's kind of like covering a little bit, and you can see it's kind of hollow in the eyes. So
Mm-hmm.
that kind of represents the image that we present to other people, that we
Mm-hmm.
kind of hide behind. And then the one in the back, the purple one, it's I don't know if you can see, it's kind of like galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of represents your higher self. So that's behind you.
Mm. And I love how like you could just see through. Yeah, they have the hollow eyes, so you see, or you're seeing different parts of each of the those separate beings kind of playing into one.
Right,
Um,
exactly. And
mhm,
I like the idea of having the heart exposed,
mhm,
and then doing kind of like your higher self kind of like supports your heart, and
mhm,
your mask that you put on top of you, it kind of you use it to protect yourself. So that's kind
mm,
of why they're kind of like placed in this way, so they're
mm.
protecting your heart. So
Awesome. And we have lovely Jones saying nice, and Anastasia saying
thank you,
beautiful
thank
on
you.
YouTube. So yeah, we're live on Niki Lopez Creative, Outclick Magazine, as well as YouTube and Periscope. So definitely thank you all for who's live with us. G says great work.
Oh, nice, thank you, thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And let's see, we could remove this from yeah now. Oh, cool. So I know you do motion graphics as well. What type of motion graphics do you do? Can you talk to us a little bit about that type of work?
Yeah, so I do motion graphics kind of for a living for an ad agency, but I'm trying to combine all of my creative abilities into one thing, and so that's when I thought about doing the virtual art shows.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to do. There's like three that are in the works, and one is almost ready. Like I wish we had timed it out so that I could be like, hey, it's live now, but it's
Yeah.
almost ready. I have one that I'm gonna do about my watercolors, and then I have one that I'm gonna do about my clay work, and then I have one I'm gonna do about my masks, my redefined masquerade.
Awesome. And then we have, oh, G say, loving the whole analysis of how we use masks in life. Absolutely.
Yeah, I kind of was like really trying to dig into like something that I could really relate to, and something that I felt like people could kind of see where I was coming from, because I'm like
Mhm.
I know I'm not alone in this way, in this feeling. So I'm like, it'd be nice to put something else that people could be like, yeah, I relate to that, and you
Hmm.
know.
Hmm. And I think what's really nice about the mask, and it's in particular your mask, that there's different levels to it. If you just want to have something funky to wear, great. But then if you want to dive into a deeper meaning of it, it's just like such a conversation starter either way you go.
Yes, exactly, exactly. No, I love it. I have so much fun.
Yeah. Oh, we have Lovely Jones. I love What's Your Elephant. It's a favorite of mine to attend. This is a nice piece. It's beautiful.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you, thank you.
Yes, yes, yes. And yes, so we're gonna have a physical exhibition, which will be appointment only, because of course we're still in the middle of a global pandemic. But definitely, there's going to be a push to have a virtual chat. We'll bring the artists, we'll bring the artwork, and we're going to have that discussion online. And especially you're doing all the motion graphics and doing virtual shows. The beauty about that a lot of us had to reimagine how we do our work. So there's challenges in that, but there's
Oh
also
yeah.
opportunities, because then you could reach other people who may not be able to come to a show in your local community because they're somewhere else.
Exactly. And because people are home now more, they're online more.
Mm-hmm.
So, people are looking for new content to watch, and so I was like, this is great content to put out for people who might want to check out some art and they can't go to galleries, or they don't feel comfortable, or we
Mm-hmm.
don't know how much longer it's going to be going on, so might as well, get
Yeah.
comfortable with it for now.
And how have you been? Like, how have you adjusted? Do you work from home, or do you normally work from home? Or
I work part time at the agency, so I do
Mhm.
go in, which has been nice because I feel like I would be losing my mind if I couldn't get out of the house.
Yeah.
And I mean, and I feel very lucky to have a place of work, and uh, yeah, I can imagine, all the people that have lost their jobs and things like that. I've been lucky and blessed that hasn't been the case for me. But yeah, I've taken the time to make new plans for new projects that I want to do, and I'm still gonna do watercolors, but I've kind of been like like I said, wanted to experiment in these other areas, which was kind of scary at first because I felt like I had a path with
Mm-hmm.
my watercolors. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
wait, but I'm walking this path, but I'm kind of like feeling like I need to go that way now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of scary because you feel like people who followed you might not want to follow you in the new path. But at the same time, you can't stay stuck doing something if it's not what,
Absolutely.
speaks to you. And so I felt the call to, I'm not saying that I'm not going to do more watercolors, but I felt the call to experiment more.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's important. One of the challenges for me years ago when I started like doing work and showing work and taking my art on a serious level is sometimes when you go to these different workshops and things that's meant to help artists, a lot of times they want to like put you in a box. Like you have to have a style that's recognizable, and you must pick one.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess it works for some creatives, but I always felt like, but what if sometimes I want to do watercolor, sometimes I want to do acrylics, I want to play in some clay. And I think that if we have that mindset as creatives, we should definitely not, hinder ourselves and this limit ourselves to this one thing.
exactly. No, because when I started doing the watercolors, I felt like I found my thing.
Mm-hmm.
People were really attracted to it, and I was really enjoying it. So I was like, that's it. This is my thing. I found it. And so letting go of that a little bit to try something
Yeah.
new, it was definitely kind of scary. I was like, I felt like I was kind of like wasting my time doing something else. I was like, this isn't my path. Like, what am I doing?
Mhm.
But then you find yourself somewhere else, and you're like, I'm so glad I did. And
Absolutely.
yeah, no, it's good to kind of sometimes go against those voices because I have those voices in my head being like, why are you doing that? You're wasting your time. What do you think you're doing? Stop messing around.
Yeah. And do you find it challenging to tune those out, or is it easy for you to tune those out? Because
uh,
sometimes I definitely.
it's taken me a lot of work to
Mhm.
work through them. I journal. I've been
Mm.
journaling for a few years, so I'm at a point where I'm kind of like able to recognize what these voices are saying, and sometimes I already have a predetermined like counter argument to them.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah. Uh, I like to listen to what the voices are saying. And there's this book that I read by Elizabeth Gilbert. Um,
Is
I'm
that
gonna
Eat, Pray, Love, the
Big
lady?
Magic,
Oh, okay.
and she talks specifically about that, about the creative voices in the head, and she says basically like to listen to them and talk and kind of communicate with them in a way that you're like you understand that they're not coming from a bad place. A lot of times when you have doubts in your head about what you're trying to do is you're trying to protect yourself from like possible
Mhm.
embarrassment or something going wrong and things like that. And so she basically in the book talks about telling the voices like, hey, I understand you're trying to keep me safe. You don't want me to get embarrassed. You don't want me to fail, but I want to do this thing and I'm going to do it. So if you can go ahead and sit back there, I'm going to do this thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of the approach I've been taking with that.
Yeah, that's a great thing because there was some book I read a while back, and they were saying that is actually from our survival skills when we were like hunters and gatherers, like that thing to keep you alive. But now it just like we don't have that. Oh, I have to protect myself, and we get to explore a little bit more. But the challenge of tuning off that voice, tuning off that good advice to really explore the depth of your creativity.
Yeah, no, and I've done a lot of reading and I listen to a lot of podcasts on that
Mm,
to try to work through that because it's really all in your head. And like you
yes.
said, it's from mechanisms that we have when we had to survive to keep us safe that
Hmm.
are not really necessary anymore. They're just kind of limiting us now.
Yeah. And we do have a question from Femin Africa. What inspired you to make your first mask, and how long ago did you start making these beautiful masks?
Uh, I started I started in the summer of last year,
Hmm.
and I will show you the first one. So the first one was let's see. I think this one was my first one actually.
Mm.
And my friend was in construction, and he just left me. These are the pieces of that go on the drywall, the metal framing that goes on the drywall.
Hmm.
And and he was gonna throw them all out because they're just like, leftover pieces. And I was like, wait, let me see what I can do with it. So I don't know. I don't know if there was a thing that necessarily inspired me. I think the materials inspired me.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw a material and I was like, oh, I have a vision of doing this thing with it. And so,
Mm-hmm. Mm, that's amazing. That's amazing. I just want to walk into a meeting with that on.
I know.
So let's talk.
I have this other one I'm going to show you.
Okay.
This is
And
probably one of the most crazy looking ones.
Anastasia is on YouTube saying, I love it. Wow. Yeah, I need to like roll up somewhere with it, you know?
They're funny. Like I'm working on them, and I have a mirror that I keep in front of me so that I can see what what they look like, what they're looking like on my face. And half
Hmm.
the time, I look at myself and I just crack up. I'm just
Yeah.
like, this looks ridiculous, but I love it. Like
I
that's
want to
part of
go
the
to
fun.
like a serious meeting, you know, because sometimes when I go to a meeting, I'm the only one that's really kind of dressed down. You see all these suits. I just want to have one of those masks on and just be like,
Yes, yes.
if I didn't have the mask on, so people like, you know, just to see people's reaction.
Of course, you would have to walk in all serious. Like,
Yeah.
what? What's wrong? Is there something on my face?
Yeah. Feminine Africa is saying, wow.
So yeah, and I mean, I love figuring out challenging ways of putting all the materials together too. This one obviously took me a lot of work how to put all the pieces of wood together and how to attach all this. It's connected in a way that's kind of really complicated, but
Hmm.
you don't really look at that immediately.
Hmm. Yeah, that's definitely some work. That's awesome. Would you ever do like a solo exhibition with all masks?
I would love to, yeah. I
Hmm.
would love to. Like, I used to want to do an exhibition and have like models wear them and walking around. I feel like that would be really fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, maybe I will.
Yeah, yeah. Well, definitely when you have the virtual exhibitions ready, let me know and I'll, you know, share them on my platforms.
Awesome.
Definitely.
Yes. No,
Yes.
that would be cool. That would be very cool.
But yeah, it would definitely be a cool thing. And I'd love to see like all the mats in person and just kind of, hmm yeah.
Yeah. I did get to show them a little bit when I was doing the art walks
Hmm.
during the winter of last year. And man, people love them. Like, it was kind of confusing because a lot of times people would come in and they would fall in love with the mask and they wouldn't even look at the watercolors. And I'm like, hey guys, I also have watercolors and they're for sale.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And so, what's the best way? I know we've had the ticker going with your website and Instagram. If someone's trying to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
either the Facebook or the Instagram, either one.
Okay. Do you have anything? What's next for you? I know you said you're doing planning a couple of virtual shows.
Yeah, and I mean that's kind of all I really have in my head for right now is doing the
Hmm.
virtual shows. As soon as the Wilton Manors Art Walk continue, I'm definitely gonna be a part of that. They're talking about maybe I don't know, maybe September, October,
Mm.
but as
It's,
of now, they've been put on hold until further notice. So
I feel like can we just get some like I don't know disposable hazmat suits?
I know,
Yeah, I'm
I,
kind of missing being around people and that energy
I
exchange.
know, I know. Me too. It's like one of the things that I miss the most is doing my art shows, like talking to people. You get into
Hmm.
such good conversations, and you meet complete strangers, and you go off about this thing.
Hmm.
And that's probably one of the things I miss the most is doing my art shows.
Hmm. Hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. If you had time, if you had access to a time machine, where would you go, past or future, and why?
I mean, anywhere that is not right now, anything that is not 2020, anything but 2020.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't. I feel like we had some really good days under Obama as a president. Those were some good years. So
Mhm.
Anything that resembles that, I would be happy with.
Awesome, awesome. So, Jose, thank you so much for coming in and sharing your work. I love the mask. Of course, I love your watercolors. It's always great to catch up with you. And
I
thank
agree. It's
you.
so great talking to you again.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, we have Michael. He said, "Amen." 2020 is bananas. Yes,
Exactly. Take that time machine and get us out of here now. Take us
yeah,
anywhere.
absolutely. Absolutely. So let me just recap a little bit. So I've put them in the chat, but if you are interested in looking at any of Jose Silva's artwork, you could definitely go to Instagram, Jose Silva Art. Yeah. And then we have Facebook, Jose Silva Art
Our
Page, and
page.
then the josesilvaonline.com. That's a way you could see
That's
his
the one.
work, you could support his work. And definitely, if you enjoyed the circle, one of the ways you could support that and check out what I'm up to, if you go to whatsyourelephant.org, that's also in the chat. I have t-shirts, I have exhibitions and different things going on. So that's definitely a way to keep in touch and support um, the work that we do here. We have, Michael, great conversation and artwork, Jose. Nikki, your excellence is beautiful. Oh, thank you. Thank
Thank you. So glad you enjoyed it.
Yes, yes. So so what's any final words that we missed?
Not really. Just excited for what's coming. These have been crazy and challenging times, but like you said, it's been a challenge to find how it could become an opportunity to try something
Yes.
new and grow in different ways. So,
Yeah, yeah. Would you do anything different if you had to go back? Like I know you started with the watercolor, then you got to the mask. Would you do anything different with whether it's your career, your art?
not really. I feel like especially with my art, there's kind of a bit of a like a divine timing to things, that things happen when they're meant to happen, and inspiration comes when it comes. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, not really. I've enjoyed the way things are happening and trust that they will continue happening in the best way that they should.
Awesome, awesome. So, Jose, yeah, this is our time. So good to see you. Thank you for being here with us today. Um, to the audience that's watching live, thank you so much for joining us and adding your comments. I see, a few of you on YouTube and Facebook, and be sure to share, tag someone. There's
Yes.
someone who wants to be inspired. There's another mask maker on the universe that just needs that extra push. So definitely share this out. And Jose, enjoy the rest of your evening. Everyone, enjoy the rest of the. Oh,
Thank
that's
you. I'm
the
gonna say bye
one.
on one of my other masks.
Absolutely. So again, this is Niki Lopez. This is Jose Silva, and I will see you all next week.
Bye.
Bye.